a photographer, I'm sure you've seen some sort of festival content on Instagram or TikTok, and you think about how cool it would be to shoot an event like that. But then you realize you have no idea where to begin when it comes to making that a reality. And especially if you're trying to build a career for yourself in music, these types of gigs can be extremely important. If you don't ever shoot a festival, you're actually missing out on valuable skills that will help you in all areas of your career. For example, knowing how to shoot massive events with multiple stages, fast turnaround times, performing under pressure, learning to work with a team, connecting with those people on your team, and then understanding workflows like getting your content from your camera to your computer to the social media team in the correct form, on time, and all while keeping it extremely high quality is a lot. I'm sure that what I just described is not exactly what you imagine shooting a festival would be like, but don't stress, I shoot music full time, and I've shot festivals like EDC Las Vegas, Lollapalooza, Electric Forest, and more. I'm going to walk you through all the things you need to know in order for you to not only shoot your first festival, but also gain valuable experience, further your career in music, and go into it with confidence and an understanding of what you just got yourself into. Really quick, if you're looking for tips on shooting and editing festival content, I give a little bit of advice at the end, but I will be covering this in an entirely different video because otherwise this one would be way too long. However, definitely let me know below if you guys would be interested in my shooting and editing processes for festivals in the first place. Let's dive into where you should start. Getting festival experience without having any festival experience. Oftentimes people are looking for creatives who have already been doing festivals for a while, which means if you don't have any prior experience, it's going to be incredibly hard to break into this scene. I will say once you do get in, it becomes much easier to get future festival work, but like I said, getting into that first one is tough. My advice here is to build up a portfolio that you can leverage when reaching out. The unfortunate reality is you're not going to get hired to shoot a music festival if you don't have any music related work in your portfolio. I will have a full video on building your music portfolio in the future, but here's a quick tip to get you started. Create and post the type of work that you want to get. In this case, it's live music related work, so find creative ways to create content for artists, venues, and festivals, even if you didn't shoot the show. An example would be editing together multiple iPhone videos of a show that you found online. Your biggest asset in addition to your mindset will be your body of work that is relevant to the types of clients you want to attract. Additionally, festival gigs definitely have a higher barrier to entry. There's a lot of competition and extreme talent. Shows and especially clubs are much lower barrier to entry gigs. I'd definitely recommend using shows and clubs to practice your craft and build up your live music portfolio. Many of the people in the festival scene got their start by shooting clubs, including myself. Okay, you have a solid live music portfolio and it's time to start reaching out, but who do you reach out to? From my personal experience and doing a little bit of digging, I found that there's roughly 6 different ways that you can get into a festival. But if I miss any, definitely let me know. The first and probably the most common way to shoot a festival is through an agency. I'm not really sure why, but no one really talks about this. A large amount of my work has actually come from agencies. Most of these companies are creator-led, and they curate content specifically for live events. This includes events outside of music. For those that do festivals full-time, this is usually through agencies that they have a relationship with, or they own the agency themselves. When it comes to working with agencies, it's all about who you know and the skills that you have to offer. The second way you could get into a festival is through an artist. Usually someone in your network either manages an artist or is an artist themselves, and they want you to come and shoot. Keep in mind that most A-list artists will always have someone who travels with them, but a lot of these B and C-list artists usually source their videographers and photographers locally since their budgets are much smaller. This is why it's important to know people in your local scene. However, reaching out via social media and email is a very good alternative. Another quick tip for when you're reaching out to these artists. Make sure these messages are as short as possible. Let them know which dates and shows you're interested in and how you can provide them value through your content. Make it personal to them and their brand. Lastly, include a link to your portfolio, either your Instagram or your website. This hasn't worked a ton for me personally, but I know a lot of people who have gotten their start this way. The next one is through your peers, acquaintances, and internet friends. I will say this until the day I die. Do not underestimate the power of your network. The number of times work has come out of nowhere because someone I knew recommended me is insane. If you see another photographer or videographer at a gig, say hi, be friendly, obviously be respectful of their space, but just don't be shy, make new friends. A great way to connect with someone is to provide some sort of value. I used to listen to this podcast called Black with No Cream, and the host Ben Haggerty had a really easy tip for instantly providing value to another creative. He said to take pictures of others while they're shooting. Most of the time, we're behind the camera and we don't have many photos of us doing what we love. So sliding to someone's DMs with a link to some photos of them shooting is an easy way to stand out and make a great first impression. It also helps to be respectful and just be a good person, no ego. We're all out here just trying to find our way in this world by doing the things that we love. I promise that if you're consistently putting out good energy, the opportunities will come. It also never hurts to ask for work when the situation presents itself. This leads us to the most valuable tip in the entire video. Like, if you take anything away from the video, it should be this. And shout out to my guy Brendan for reminding me of something I had completely forgotten about. A lot of camera ops and team leads that shoot festivals are always looking for PAs. Yes, I know that shooting is the fun part, but I'll tell you why PAing is so valuable. When you PA, you get to see how the photo and video teams operate, and depending on your role, you'll most likely get a first-hand glimpse at what work actually goes into creating the content. And you can learn so much from an experienced festival shooter, and it's a great opportunity to build a relationship with someone who's already in the festival world. If you make a good first impression, there's a chance you'll get invited back next year. This is exactly how I got some of my first opportunities at festivals. So if you see someone on social media or someone in your network that you'd be interested in working with, send them a DM. But like I mentioned earlier, keep it short and to the point. It's about you helping them and not the other way around. Moving on to shooting festivals through brands. Brands are always looking for content, but there's a catch. 99% of the time, they hire agencies, who then hire creators like you and me. However, the important thing to understand about working with brands is unless the brand is specific to music, you'll most likely be shooting activations and products and experiences instead of artists. So just keep this in mind, but a big advantage to working with a brand is they usually have a much larger budget than any of the other ways of getting into a festival. Next is filling out applications on the festival website. I personally have never ever been approved for a media pass through like an online application. I know people who have, but it just seems like a lot less common. And there's usually no budget because like the only thing you're applying for is a media pass. If you do get approved, just make sure to take full advantage, beef up that portfolio. No one's breathing down your neck for content, so this is a great opportunity to just like push yourself and execute like your vision. Lastly, moving on to publications like magazines, newspapers, and other companies that want content from a specific event. From my understanding, this is one of the least common ways to get into a festival because like most of these companies have their own in-house person to cover these types of things, and they usually won't hire outside help unless like for a very specific reason. This video would not be complete if we didn't quickly touch on how rates work when being hired to shoot festivals. Obviously, this varies greatly based on the types of clients that want to hire you. Working with artists for a festival is pretty much the same as if you were working with them for an individual show. They want a specific type of content, and then you quote them either by a flat rate per deliverable or by a day rate or half day rate. Like when I was first starting out, I would make anywhere from $100 to $300 a show, but now I usually quote on the very low end, $600 and up. Again, please understand that these rates vary based on the client's needs. Working with agencies and brands, however, is very different. They're going to ask you what your day rate is for a specific role and deliverables. You then have to determine what a fair rate would be based on your role and the amount of experience that you have. For someone starting out with little to no experience, I would suggest a day rate of no more than $250. In some cases, if they know that you don't have a ton of experience, they might even want you to do the work for free. And I mean, at this point, it's probably worth it so that you can at least get the experience. However, once you've become established, and again, depending on your role, a day rate of $650 to $1,500 is pretty common. To get above that $1,500 and $2,000 mark, you really need to bring a lot of talent, skill, and experience to the table. And I'll say it again, these are very rough numbers. And I'll also be honest, I haven't gotten to that point in my career where I'm making $1,500 a day. And I've had very little conversations surrounding the topic of rates. It seems a little bit taboo to talk about it. But hopefully conversations like this can change that. But if you're in the music industry and you shoot festivals and you get paid rates way different than what I just listed, please let me know in the comments. I would love to have a conversation with you. I think these types of conversations are just super duper important. So you've locked in your first gig. There's a few things you need to know prior to showing up. I know this stuff can be boring, but if you don't know these things, it could prevent you from shooting at all. To be clear, this is not legal advice, but these are things that are important to understand. This will also vary depending on who hires you and who gives you the opportunities. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I just want you to be aware that these things exist. You will most likely be given a contract to sign prior to arriving on site. Usually it will outline details like when you will arrive on site, the scope of the work that you've been contracted to create, whether that's for an artist or the whole festival, your rates and payment period after the invoice has been sent, and who owns the content you create. All festivals will request a COI, which stands for Certificate of Insurance. To shoot a festival, you'll need small business liability insurance. Our gear is expensive and the festivals do not want to be responsible for it should something happen. I personally use State Farm. They provide the coverage I need, they're affordable, and I can create COIs online instantly. The majority of festivals or agencies will take full ownership of any content that you make through the contract. This is because they want to be in control of the festival's brand and overall tone. In most cases, you'll have no problem sharing the work you created as long as it's already been posted by the festival. If it hasn't been posted yet, you'll likely need to get permission to share the content publicly. Just always make sure to ask if you can use the content to promote yourself. The answer to that question may dictate whether or not a gig is worth taking. Alright, I'm about to get a little serious here. You're about to arrive on site and you'll need to pick up your credentials. Your credentials will give you access to different areas of the festival in the form of a band, a sticker, or a tag. The number one important thing to know and understand here is that you do not post your credentials online in any way, shape, or form. There are a lot of people who create fake passes, and this is a huge safety issue. Posting your creds online could lead to an unsafe environment for you, your gear, the attendees, security, everyone around you. So this is extremely frowned upon and unprofessional, and if you were to do something like that, the chances of you getting invited back next year are very low. Okay, serious time is over. Let's run through a quick breakdown of the different positions on festival teams. On the photo team, you will have a team lead who is in charge of organization and giving out assignments in addition to shooting as needed. Team leads will also usually play like a visionary role. From there, you have artist photographers, brand photographers, and experienced photographers, and these shooters will almost always cross over to the other categories, but most prefer shooting a certain type of content. And then obviously you have photo team PAs like your boy was at one point. On the video team, you will have a team lead who's in charge of organization and shooting assignments for the social shooters, the aftermovie shooters, and the drone team, in addition to shooting wherever they're needed. Usually this person is also the aftermovie director, and then you have the social shooters and the editors who create short form content that is posted in real time. Next is your aftermovie shooters and editors. The shooters are usually red ops, but anyone who is shooting / editing specifically for the aftermovie. And last but not least, the drone team. Always gotta show love to the drone team. They'll be in charge of all aerial coverage for both the social team and the aftermovie team. As promised, here's a bonus tip for actually shooting a festival. Let's say you've been assigned to make a recap video or capture photos for a specific artist's set. Sometimes you'll only be allowed to shoot the first 3 songs, which means speed and efficiency is the name of the game. Keep in mind that this is only for the pit though, so as long as you're outside of the pit after the 3 songs, then usually you're good to keep shooting. So during your time in the pit, grab all those close-up and medium shots and basically as many, unique angles and looks at that you can get. And then once you're outside the pit, go to the back of the crowd and capture those beautiful wide shots that show off the number of people and the size of the event. If you're not limited to the 3 songs, then you can obviously take a different approach. But I always like to cover my bases in case the artist cuts their set short or something doesn't go according to plan. And trust me, it never goes to plan. I really wish I had this information when I was coming up, because like no one tells you what a COI is, or that you can't post your credentials online, or even about like the sheer number of roles within video and photo teams. But that's why I made this video, and if you found any amount of value in it, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to pass Nikon in subscribers because I think selling potatoes for thousands of dollars should be illegal, so Sony gang. If you have any questions, comments, or any topics that you'd like me to cover, please leave them below. Work to create, work to inspire, and I'll see you in the next one.